Speaking of the name Titus, I'd like to pause in the proceedings just a moment for, if you don't mind, sharing maybe one of my top 3 stories in the history of show business. And, brother, I have heard a few. And that is when Christopher Walken heard the name Titus in your presence for the first time and had a strange reaction.
He did?
You were a fan of his. You were, as it turns out, if you check the record, prior to Jay Moore on SNL, you were the one who was not famously but known in certain circles for doing a Christopher Walken impression. So you're obviously a fan of the man's work for many, many years. You get a chance to work with him on which film?
I didn't work with him. I actually had done a film with Eric Roberts. They were friends, and we were meeting for a drink together.
Gotcha.
And so we go to meet Chris, and he's sitting at the table, and we walk up, and Eric says, "This is my friend Titus," and Chris goes, "Titus, are you the king of someplace I'm unaware of?" In many ways, I am.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't, what I wanted to do was say, do you know how many years I have been, doing an impersonation of you? And it all started with Annie Hall, and it was really that crazy inflection. I don't know if you've ever seen him do Shakespeare.
We just saw the Martin McDonough play with the handing, and Shakespeare I can't imagine.
It's amazing, but imagine that Chris has his own iambic pentameter. He's not going, my liege, I did deny no prisoners, but I remember when the fight was done, when I was dry with rage and extreme toil. And I know that every dramaturge in the audience is going, right? Suddenly they're stricken with St. Vitus dance. They can't. But you know what?
Why are there no periods and commas with this fucker? Yeah.
Because it's the Walken land.
So was the Judith Ivey part of that? What was the part where you said?
Oh, the swoozie?
Yeah, the swoozie.
That's a filthy story.
Well,
can we tell it?
That's the one. Yes.
You have good legal representation on the show?
We do, in the sense that none.
He was doing House of Blue Leaves when I was a student at NYU studying with Mamet. We were at Lincoln Center, and they were doing House of Blue Leaves, which Chris was doing with Swoozie Kurtz and a host of John Mahoney. I mean, it was an amazing production. And they had a big opening night party, and Chris was there, and I was a young buck, and completely, this is before I had, had met him with Eric, predated that by many, many years. And I was outside with him smoking a cigarette, and he, of course, he'll sue me because he'll say there's no public record, so that's okay. Looked inside where the party was going on, inside of whatever, the upstairs of the Mitzi Newhouse. It's all glassed in, and it was a who's who. I mean, everybody was there in the business. And Chris said, "I tell you, the great thing about fame, I could walk in that party, I could fuck any girl I want to, and tonight, I'd like to fuck Swoozie Kurtz in her ass." And he goes, "What do you think?" So, of course, quick with an answer, I said, "I think you ought to talk to Swoozie about that." And years later, 25 years later, I'm working with Swoozie, and I tell her this, and her response is, "Oh, Chris." Everybody knows. Expect the unexpected.
Now, here, just to give you an example of how your life has become legend, involving Christopher Walken in particular in this story, and how it becomes more than what actually happened, as legends do. Here's one of the ways those 2 stories were combined and related to me.
Really?
Yes. Which is why initially, apocryphal is what happens. Why I initially said to you, what was the thing you worked with him on? Here's how I was told you were introduced. You were working on a film that Chris was in. And you were in the hair and makeup truck first, and you were talking to the hair and makeup people, and you were saying, I can't believe I'm going to finally work with Christopher Walken. I swear to God, all of this was explained to me. This entire thing written, fabricated, but passed down like this is the gospel. This was, someone didn't make this up and tell me. This was like, I'm going to tell you one of the greatest stories ever. Because I told somebody, I met this guy, and he's a great actor, but he also does a ridiculous Pacino, and he started doing Walken for me, and I know that. So the hair and makeup say, well, you know, when Chris comes in, I'll introduce you to him. And you're like, no, I'd rather. And just then Walken walks in at the far end of the hair and makeup truck, and one of them says, hey, Chris, this is Titus. This is Titus. And Walken said, Titus? Titus? You're not the leader of some third world country, are you, Titus? And you said, no, sir, I'm actually an actor on the film with you. How are you? And he said, I'm famous.
That's
So famous, in fact, Titus, later this afternoon, I'm going to fuck Judith Ivey in the ass.
Oh, this is brilliant.
That's how and then he says, how are you? Yeah, that's how it ends.
That's brilliant.
So famous, I'm going to fuck Judith Ivey in the ass. How are you? He puts it back on you. So it turns out it's Susie Kurtz, not Judith Ivey.
Yeah.
It's two stories. You met him the first time with the Titus joke, the king.
No, the first time I met him was at the Swoozie Kurtz thing,
Which was just random.
and of course I didn't when I re-met him.
Right. He didn't bring up the Susie
because
Kurtz.
anytime you see Chris, hey Chris, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
You're too close. Who are you?
Right.
Scary man. You got a big forehead, like a gumball machine.
Yeah. Then it goes.
Sorry. Really? Oh, okay.
It goes.